Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to another recommendations video. Now this is one I'm really excited to be updating, so just a little bit of backstory. The last time I did this video was January of last year, which I did not realize it had been so long. One of my projects for the start of this year is I wanted to know every single recommendation video that I had done and how many I have done of each one. If you don't know, I have a playlist that has almost over 160 recommendation videos, from just like tropes in general to oddly specific book tropes, which I also have on there, to taboo. All of it is there. And one of the things I wanted to do was to make a spreadsheet where I had all of those. So that is actually done and it is available for my members only. Either I have pinned it on my YouTube community page or else in our Discord, and so currently that is something you can get access to if you become a member at any level. I thought it would be fun to keep that as a reward, especially because it's not like any of the content is hidden, because these are all videos you can see. I've just organized them in a way that is only available to my channel members. None of the videos are hidden because of this, but yeah, so that's what I decided to do. And it took me quite a few hours to get them all written down. But anyway, this video, as you can tell by the title of it, is going to be indie published historical romances, which is something that I unconsciously made a goal in 2021 that I wanted to read more of those. I wanted to find more authors that I could just fall for and read a bunch of their books. A lot of these are on Kindle Unlimited. A lot of them have audiobooks, which is really exciting. And so I just went for it and I've read a lot. And so I have quite a few authors and series to share with you. These are all indie published authors. So I'm very excited about it. So we're going to dive in because, again, I have a lot to share. I'm not maybe going to go so much into the details of each book. You know how often I lie about that. I say I'm not going to, and then I do. I want this to be more bringing the authors to your attention. So I'll tell you how many of their books I've read, what my general overall feelings are towards them, and then you can make up your mind. And the author that I want to start with is an author that actually has a couple of names. They actually have traditionally published books, and then they have quite a few indie published books, but like their pen names aren't secret, like they have them on each book. And so that is Minerva Spencer, who actually is also SM LaViolette. And funnily enough, as I've said in a few videos before, Minerva Spencer is actually the pen name. Okay, so Minerva Spencer is the one with Kensington Books, Zebra. You can get the Rebels of the Ton series and the Outcast series, and she has an upcoming series that will be starting in 2022 that is actually about a all-female circus, which is amazing. But the books that I've read by her that are self-published was ones that were actually in my last video was the, their historical erotica. Damn it, what's the series called? I can't remember it. But she's actually going to be putting out 2 more books in that series, which is, Victorian Decadence. That's what the series is called. But the series that I've read this year for the first time were the Seductionrs, which includes, that starts with Melissa and the Vicar, and this is actually a virgin hero, a brothel owner female who is having some health issues, so she needs to step away from her work. Then there is Joss and the Countess, which is actually an older woman, and he is a bodyguard and a little bit of a dom, so that's really nice. And then the third one, which I just read, was Hugo and the Maiden, and this is a male escort as well, or a male prostitute, and a vicar's daughter. And I really enjoyed all 3 of these. I really enjoyed these books. I just finished Hugo and the Maiden the other day, and I've ordered myself physical copies of these ones because the redone covers for this series are so beautiful. I love it so much. Then there's another series which literally has both names on the cover. So this one I think is Minerva Spencer writing as SM LaViolette is what it's called. And this series is called The Figures of Love. This is a series that is currently ongoing. I've only read the first book, but I'm starting on the second one. And this is a series that I believe the blurb had something to do with. There's 7 different teachers that are going to teach their, respective employers something. So the first one that I've read, which is, I can't remember, but here's the cover. The hero is an albino, and the heroine, so he has albinism, so like his skin and eyes are very sensitive to the light. And then our heroine is his piano teacher. And I just really enjoyed this one. This was great. This one was a surprise baby, which I know not everyone loves, so I want to tell you that, but it was done in a very sweet way. I really enjoyed it. So next, it will surprise no one that I have Elisa Braden on this list. The series that I first started with her was Midnight in Scotland. This is the series she's currently writing. So this is about the McPherson family. The first one is actually about Annie Tulloch, who is the stepdaughter to the McPhersons. The McPherson laird, he married her mother, who was a widow, and he has 4 of his own children, and they just loved Annie. They love Annie so much. And this one is her and an Englishman. This is their romance. Then there is The Taming of the Highlander, which is about one of the McPhersons who his name is Broderick, and he has been in prison for a while where he was scarred horribly, and he has a lot of PTSD from that. And Kate, they end up in a marriage of convenience to save him from being arrested. And then the most recent release, and one of my first 6-star book of the year, was The Temptation of the Highlander, which is about Campbell McPherson. And this is kind of a bodyguard, forced proximity. The heroine, Clarissa, has a stalker who is after her, who's literally followed her to Kate's house, because she goes to visit Kate in the Highlands, and he follows her there. And it's very intense. There are trigger warnings for animal death, like, not that you see it on page, but you know what's happened, and it's pretty painful, so know that with this one. But I love this series so much. And then after I had read the first 2 books in that series, the third one wasn't out yet, and so I read her entire Rescued from Ruin series. The only one I haven't read so far is the prequel. I've read the novella in the series and all the other books, so I didn't list every single one of these, but here's a picture of them. All of these books are on AnyPlay, by the way. And I also got some of them from Libby. They were at my library, so I was able to read them. And I freaking loved these books. My favorites were number 4, and I think 8 and 9 were my favorites, but I loved the whole series. And this series is mostly about Kate's family. The Huxleys are a big part of that series, so that's why this series bleeds into that. Then I recently started reading Lauren Smith, and the first book in this series is called Wiccan Design. So Lauren Smith is actually the historical pen name for Emma Castle, and I believe her real name is Lauren Smith because she actually reached out to me to tell me that she writes historical. Her books are also on AnyPlay and Eden Books, by the way, which is a independent online for ebooks that was started by Kay Webster that actually, it doesn't rival Amazon, but it's an alternative option if you'd like to purchase your ebooks from somewhere other than Amazon. And so this series is called, I didn't write down the series title, damn it, but this one has to do with rogues as well. And the first one is about this woman that she literally gets kidnapped and kind of held for ransom by these group of lords who want to get back at her family. And the men all agree, because they all really want her, and they all kind of agree that they'll take turns courting her to see who she likes the best, but they're also kind of keeping her captive. So I definitely plan to continue this series. I want to read the next one very soon, because I'm just excited to support another indie author, because I'm just loving it so much, and this was very sexy and very fun. Then I want to recommend Rake I'd Like to F. Duke I'd Like to F was in the video that I made last January. So this is the next book in kind of this series of anthologies. There's going to be one this year that is called Villain I'd Like to F. So I'm very excited about that. This one, the authors in this are Adrienne Herrera, Sierra Simone, Eva Lee, Joanna Shoup, and there's one more that I can't remember, but here's the cover of it. And this was all like, this was queer, sexy, spicy, some BDSM in here. This was delightful. I don't like reading a ton of like shorter historicals, but these are just erotic delight. And they're romance, all of them are romance, but it was so much fun. Then, this is funny. So Alyson Chase is someone I had found for the historical romance readathon last year. And I actually read book 4 because it was free on like Amazon had it as a free title, and I bought it, and this is book 4. And all of these have like, they have slight BDSM parts in them. So the series is called Lords of Discipline. And I recently read book 1 in the series, which is the only one without an audiobook, which is sad. But I'm going to read the other ones in this series very soon. So this one specifically was a Scottish lord marked by the Marquess, or he was a Marquess. And he kind of ends up in a like forced marriage because the girl gets ruined. And so they end up in a marriage. And she really doesn't want to be married, but it happens. And then, yeah, the other one, Disciplined by the Duke, was the first one. And that one was, this woman was undercover in his house to like spy on him because she was being forced to do it. And she ends up falling for him, and they end up having an affair. And it's very, sorry, the lighting is messing with me like it usually does. Then Eyes of Silver, Eyes of Gold. This was a 6-star book for me last year. This is a Western historical. This is very emotional. I know it has a really bad cover. I really, really wish this author would redo the covers, but this is in KU though, so you don't have to buy a physical copy of it by any means. And this is a book that I was totally not going to read because the cover was horrible, but it was a viewer recommendation. It got picked out of my TBR cup, so we went ahead and read it. This book, I believe Annie is her name. Let me just check. I think this is Annie. Yeah, it's Anne and Cord. Cord is actually part Native. His father's like second wife, which is his mom, was Native. So he has older siblings who are kind of like afraid for him, and like the town is very suspicious of him. Him and his younger sister are very mistreated by the town, and so he is a loner who lives on his own. But when he used to be in school, he was friends with this woman named Anne, and she is trying to run away from an arranged marriage that her father is trying to force her into, and she ends up stopping for the night at Cord's home. Her father catches up to her and, in a weird turn of events, forces her to marry Cord because they have brought a preacher with, and he's like, we're going to marry you to him, you're going to be a widow the next day, and you're going to live through this humiliation, and then you're going to do what I want. It's a very weird logic train that her father's using, but he's crazy, so whatever. And they beat Cord almost to death. He should die. And they hurt Anne quite a lot too. And literally because she's still covered in like blood and things, that her dad's like, you're going to sit here overnight with this dead body of your husband we forced you to marry, and tomorrow I'll come and pick you up. And when people come back to try to take her home, she has Cord's gun, and she's like, I'm not going, because you know what? Now this is my husband, and I'm going to take care of him. So this starts as like it's a forced marriage type of thing against both of their wills. And also it's a forced proximity and she nurses him back to health. And it was so powerful. This book was so powerful because Cord just doesn't believe that he deserves love. He thinks that this is all his fault. Anne feels like it's all her fault. She's the one who brought trouble to his door. There's so much, but this was so good. I want to try some other books of hers, but I don't know that anything could move me quite the way that this one did. So I highly, highly recommend this, particularly if you love Westerns and you want to try an indie author. Just get the ebook, don't look at the cover, and give it a go. Another one that I really enjoyed that was a viewer recommendation was Broken Wing by Judith James. This book, oh my gosh, this book is about Gabriel, who was raised in a brothel, and there is a young boy who was kidnapped and is also brought to this brothel, and he uses his body and his wits to kind of save this boy from being raped the way that he's been all these years. And when finally this boy's family comes to get him, it's been many years because this is historical, and the boy, he doesn't even remember his brother and sister, who are both half siblings to him. So like the boy, one of them is the mother and one is the father. So like they're half siblings to this boy, each of them is. And Gabriel agrees to come with them and be kind of a companion to the boy, but he's still so stuck in this kind of traumatized brain where he believes he needs to use his body to get anything. And really this family, particularly Sarah, the sister, is slowly teaching him that that's not the case. Like, I like you for who you are. This book is a bit more about like the self-discovery of Gabriel, but the romance is very central and very important, and it has an HEA. It's just a little more historical fiction and kind of a journey that Gabriel is going on than some of these. But this one's also on KU. I highly, highly recommend. It is just another one that was very powerful, very wonderful. Then there is Ruin of Evangeline Jones by Julia Bennett. This one, I actually talked about the first book in this series. Well, I don't even know if it was a series. I think it is a series. Yes, back when I did the first video. And that one was The Madness of Miss Gray, which was about this woman who was forced into an insane asylum, and she falls for her doctor there and tries to convince him that she's not crazy. And then The Ruin of Evangeline Jones is actually about a duke. I think he's a duke. Yes, he's a duke. And he loves to like uncover charlatans and frauds and spiritualists. And Evangeline Jones is a spiritualist, and he's determined to prove that she is fake. And so they end up making a deal that if he can prove that she's fake, then like she'll run out of town. But look at this cover. It's absolutely beautiful. Sorry, my ring light makes it shiny. And this was a fun one to read. Then I have to talk about Daria Vernon. This is the Highwaymans Folly. The second book in this is going to come out soon. I'm so excited. But this book is very interesting. This is about Beth Clark, and she gets kidnapped twice in one night. First by the family's, what's it called? They're like estate manager tries to kidnap her to force her into marriage, but then the carriage that they're in gets kidnapped by Reese Booker, who is a highwayman, and so she gets taken to the Highwaymans Folly, which is like their hideout, and they're going to like ransom her, and she ends up falling for Reese. And then this one does actually have a time jump in it, because Reese, who falls very quickly for his captive, who isn't his captive for very long, but like she falls for him, they both fall for each other, but he realizes that like he can't just be with her. He needs to make something of himself first. And so this is that kind of story where like she's basically lost all hope that she'll ever have him, but he's been busy making something of himself so he could come back to her. So I really love this. The next book is going to be called The Rogue's Last Letter, and that one will come out very soon. Then I have to share about Kidnapped by the Pirate by Kiera Andrews. I finally bought myself a copy of this one. This is a gay pirate romance. It's also age gap, a virgin romance too. So we have Nathaniel Bainbridge, who is going to, like, he's for the last few years, well, maybe since he was young, he has had a forbidden desire for men, but under the thumb of his dad, he's actually going to be pushed into a respectable marriage to like help his family. But then he gets kidnapped by pirates by Hawk, who is really wanting to give up being a pirate. He hasn't been really satisfied with this life for the last few years, and he realizes that if he can ransom Nathaniel, he could make enough money to be able to quit this life. It's one of those cases of forced proximity where like you're too sweet and innocent to be put in my brig because you will be raped and abused, so I'm going to keep you in the cabin with me. There was a lot of Sea of Ruin vibes that I got from this book, but there isn't any non-consensual stuff going on. I mean, it is captor-captive, but all the sexual experiences are all consented to. It's more of a like, it begins as like a curiosity thing for Nathaniel, who has always been attracted to men but hasn't been able to act on it, and then he finally is in this one. And then the last one I want to mention, which I forgot to grab the book from over there, but it's Scandal by Navessa Allen. Navessa is actually a viewer of the channel sometimes, so if you're watching, hello, my friend. This book is actually a menage. This is an MMF menage, which actually starts with one of the heroes of this book, John. He has had a long time partner, but being gay is obviously illegal back then. And actually him and his partner are both like bisexual, but they've been together for quite a while. And our heroine, she ends up kind of saving them in an interesting way. And she's about to be forced into marriage to a very horrible man. And so John offers the perfect solution. that he will marry her. She will never have to worry about him sleeping with her. He's not, you know, he has a partner already. She knows about this, of course. That's part of the way in which she kind of like saves him, is that she covers for him and his partner. And yeah, so that is kind of like the prologue, the beginning of this. And now it's a few years in, and she's actually falling in love for both her husband and her husband's partner. And they approach her with a proposition of like, well, what if we become a threesome? Like, what if we're all together? And I really, really enjoyed this a lot. There's supposed to be another book coming. It's taking its time because Navessa's working on it, but I absolutely love this. It's a really big book. It's very exciting. There's also some espionage and spy stuff going on in the background. So there you go. There are some independent historical romance authors for you. Please tell me who your favorites are. There definitely are others. They could be mentioned in the first video, or they're people that I have my eye on. I definitely have my eye on Grace Calloway. She's someone I plan to read very soon, including some others as well. So thank you so much for watching. I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week, and you can watch some more of them right now. Bye.